The last public hanging in West Virginia took place on December 16, 1897, in the town of Ripley. The individual involved was John F. Morgan, who was convicted of murdering Chloe Green and two of her children in the Grass Lick area of Jackson County. The events leading up to the execution began on November 3, 1897, when Morgan, a local handyman and acquaintance of the Green family, attacked them with a hatchet. He killed Chloe Green and her two children, Jimmy and Matilda. Another daughter, Alice, survived the attack and alerted neighbors, leading to Morgan's swift arrest.
John Morgan was a local man, a farm hand, and up until this time, no one really thought much about him. There just really wasn't a lot that made him stand out. Post-Green family, he worked on the farm there. Mrs. Green's first and second husband had both been deceased. Well, what eventually made John Morgan famous was he murdered. It was a triple murder, and he murdered the mother, Chloe Green, and two of her children. And one was the daughter, and then a young son, Jimmy. And he seriously injured one of the other daughters. She could identify who he was to the sheriff. Very brutal. Oh, we'd never had anything like this happen in this area before. He did the murder with an axe and a hatchet. But one of the daughters survived the attack, so she could tell, her name was Alice, she could tell the sheriff who it was and how it happened. It was a very quick trial, so from the time of the murders till the actual hanging was only about a month. It was very, very quick. And there was a small Indian mound on the property, right where you had to pass it. And the sheriff always said that he thought that was a perfect place for a gallows because it was raised and people could get around it and see it real well. And so that's where and that was out of Ripley. The main part of Ripley then was down where you see the courthouse now. This was almost kind of out of town a little bit. But it was on that property close to where the high school is now.
The last public hanging in West Virginia received extensive media coverage at the time, including national newspapers from New York, Baltimore, Cincinnati, and Pittsburgh. The coverage highlighted the sensational aspects of the crime, the execution, contributing to the spectacle surrounding the event. The public hanging drew a large crowd of about 5,000 spectators, creating a carnival-like experience.
According to the newspapers, it was almost a carnival-type atmosphere leading up to it. They sold a variety of things, food and things like that. And they even said there was some out-of-town people that came in like a little troupe of actors that the night before put on a little skit that included a hanging.
Folklore also tends to romanticize the execution day, sometimes portraying it as a community event with a festive atmosphere. In contrast, historical accounts emphasize the chaotic and appalling nature of the spectacle, which led to significant public outcry and legal changes.
Well, there was a delegate that was there at the hanging from Jackson County, and there was enough of an outrage about how the trial and the hanging was conducted, and that it was such a carnival atmosphere that he proposed legislation the next year to ban public hangings. And the legislature did that, and from that point on, they still had hangings as capital punishment in the state, but they moved it to Morgantown to the state penitentiary. So that's why this was the last public hanging.